Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you today, what are you afraid of? Is it the uncertainty of tomorrow? The fear of failure? The worry that life will not turn out the way you hope? Fear is a prison, and too many people are trapped behind its bars. They wake up anxious, go to bed troubled, and live every moment in the grip of worry. The world feeds this fear. The news, the headlines, the economy, they all whisper the same message. Be afraid. But I tell you today, you don't have to live that way. We were not created to live small, trembling in the shadows of doubt. No, we were meant to stand tall, to walk boldly, to live with confidence and assurance. There have been men and women throughout history who refused to be ruled by fear. They were ordinary people like you and me, but they had something extraordinary. They had the courage to believe, to step forward when others stepped back, to hold on when the world told them to give up. Fear is the enemy of peace. It steals your joy. It robs you of hope. It blinds you to the blessings you already have. But I want to tell you something today. You don't have to be afraid. You can live with boldness. You can walk in strength. How do we defeat fear? With faith. Faith is the antidote to fear. When you believe, when you trust, when you hold on to something greater than yourself, fear loses its grip. It cannot control a heart that is filled with faith. And let me tell you another secret. Love casts out fear. A person who loves, who truly loves, has no room for fear in their heart. Love strengthens. Love empowers. Love says, I will not be shaken. My friends, the battle is not outside, it is inside. It is in your mind, in your thoughts, in what you choose to believe. Do you believe fear, or do you believe in something greater? Because if you do, you can walk without fear. You can wake up with confidence. You can live in victory. The world will always give you reasons to be afraid. But today, I give you a reason to stand firm. You were not made to live in fear. You were made to live with courage, with boldness, with strength. So go forward. Live free. Live without fear. Fear is a silent thief. It creeps into the mind, whispers doubts, and chains a person to a life of hesitation and regret. It is not just a feeling, it is a force that shapes decisions, limits potential, and blinds people to the possibilities before them. How many dreams have been abandoned because fear said, you're not good enough? How many opportunities have been lost because fear warned it's too risky? How many relationships have suffered because fear insisted you'll get hurt again? Fear builds walls where there should be doors. It locks people inside a prison of what ifs. What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if I lose everything? And so, instead of stepping forward, they remain still. Instead of reaching out, they pull back. Instead of embracing life, they shrink from it. But here's the truth. Fear is a liar. It magnifies problems beyond reality, making mountains out of molehills. It paralyzes, but it has no real power unless it is given control. It thrives on inaction. The moment a person dares to move forward, despite their fear, the walls of that prison begin to crumble. A life lived in fear is a life half lived. It is a life of waiting instead of doing. of wishing instead of becoming. But the good news is this: fear does not have the final say. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward in spite of it. And when that decision is made, fear loses its grip and true freedom begins. Everywhere you turn, fear is being sold. It is in the headlines, in conversations, in the way people speak about the future. The world thrives on fear because fear keeps people controlled, distracted, and uncertain. Fear is a powerful tool. It shapes opinions, influences decisions, and dictates how people live their daily lives. Turn on the news and you will hear voices telling you to be afraid of the economy collapsing, afraid of sickness, afraid of war, afraid of tomorrow. Advertisers play on fear, convincing people that they need more to be safe, more to be happy, more to be secure. Social media spreads panic, magnifying every problem and convincing people that danger is always just around the corner. But has fear ever solved a problem? Has it ever healed a broken heart or brought peace to a troubled soul? Fear does not build, it destroys. It does not strengthen, it weakens. It does not lead to wisdom, it leads to confusion and despair. And yet the world continues to feed on it because a fearful heart is an easy heart to manipulate. The world will always have reasons to be afraid, but we do not have to accept them. We do not have to live under the weight of anxiety and uncertainty. The world may try to dictate the narrative, but we have a choice in what we believe. The world may spread fear, but we can choose to stand firm in courage. While others panic, we can be at peace. While others worry about the future, we can walk forward in confidence. Fear may be the language of the world, but it does not have to be the language of our hearts. There is a better way to live, one that is not driven by fear, but by faith, wisdom, and a deep assurance that no matter what happens, we can stand strong. Fear and faith cannot rule the same heart. Where one thrives, the other fades. Fear whispers, what if everything goes wrong? Faith answers, what if everything goes right? Fear says, you're not strong enough. Faith replies, strength is given to those who step forward. Fear demands certainty before action, but faith moves forward even when the path is unclear. The truth is, fear will always be present, knocking at the door of the mind, looking for a way in. It does not disappear simply because we want it to, but we have a choice to let fear take control or to stand firm in faith. Faith does not mean that we will never feel afraid. It means that fear will not dictate our actions. It means trusting in something greater than our circumstances, greater than our emotions, greater than the voices of doubt. Fear does not come alone. It brings anxiety, doubt, and restlessness. It fills the mind with endless what-ifs and steals the ability to enjoy the present moment. Fear does not simply visit. It takes residence, occupying every corner of the heart, whispering constant worries about the future, health, relationships, and success. But the most tragic thing about fear is that it robs people of peace. True peace is not found in perfect circumstances. It is not found in wealth, status, or control over every detail of life. It is an inner calm that remains steady even when storms rage on the outside. Fear, however, is the opposite. It is a storm inside the soul. It keeps people on edge, always looking over their shoulders, always expecting the worst, their path, and their ability to handle challenges. Think of a person who is truly at peace. They are not the ones without problems. They are the ones who refuse to let problems dictate their emotions. They have a quiet confidence, a deep assurance that no matter what happens, they will stand firm. They do not ignore reality, but they do not let fear control them. Their peace is unshaken because it is not built on external circumstances. It is built on the other hand, a fearful person is never at rest. Even in moments of happiness, fear lingers in the background, whispering, "This won't last." Even when everything is going well, fear warns something bad is coming. And so, fear does what no enemy could ever do. It steals joy before the battle has even begun. But here's the truth. Fear is a thief, and thieves only take what we allow them to. We do not have to let fear rob us of peace. We can choose to break free, to refuse to listen to the voice of worry, to stand in faith instead of trembling in fear. Peace is not the absence of trouble. It is the presence of trust. And when that trust is strong, fear loses its grip, and the soul finds rest. Courage is not something a person is born with. It is something they choose. It is not reserved for the strong, the fearless, or the extraordinary. It is available to everyone, but only those who decide to embrace it will experience its power. Boldness is not about waiting until fear disappears. It is about moving forward even when fear is present. It is the choice to stand firm, to take action, to believe that fear does not have the final say. Many people think courage is a feeling, something that comes naturally in the right moment, but the truth is, courage is a decision, a daily decision. It is the choice to rise above doubt, to refuse to be ruled by fear, to step into the unknown with confidence. The person who waits until they feel brave before taking action will never move at all. Life will always present opportunities to retreat or advance. When challenges arise, fear says, turn back, but boldness says, keep going. When obstacles appear, fear whispers, you won't make it. But courage declares, I will find a way. Fear makes a person passive, but courage makes them active. It gives them the strength to push forward when everything inside them wants to shrink back. History is filled with stories of people who chose boldness over fear. They were not immune to doubt, but they refused to let it define them. They knew that fear would always be there, but they also knew they had the power to rise above it. Their victories were not because they were fearless, but because they were determined. The difference between a life of regret and a life of fulfillment often comes down to one thing: the willingness to be bold, to take the step, to speak the truth, to believe in something greater than fear. Boldness is a choice, and those who choose it will always walk in freedom. Throughout history, the people who changed the world were not the ones who lived in fear. They were not the ones who hesitated, who let doubt control them, who stayed where it was safe and comfortable. No, history belongs to the bold, the ones who refused to be ruled by fear, the ones who stepped forward when others held back. Great leaders, pioneers, and visionaries all had moments of fear, but they did not let it stop them. They felt the weight of uncertainty, yet they pressed on. They faced opposition, yet they stood firm. They knew that fear was a barrier, but they chose to break through it rather than be held captive by it. Think of the explorers who set sail without knowing what lay beyond the horizon. Think of the inventors who dared to challenge the impossible, the reformers who stood against injustice, the men and women who faced overwhelming odds yet refused to back down. They did not wait for the perfect conditions or for fear to disappear. They moved forward knowing that courage is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to be controlled by it. Fear keeps people stuck. It makes them settle for less, avoid risks, and accept mediocrity. It convinces them that stepping out is too dangerous, that failure is too painful, that staying where they are is the only option. But those who have left a mark on history knew that fear is a liar. They knew that comfort is the enemy of progress and that nothing great is ever achieved without risk. The same choice stands before each person today. Will fear write the story of your life, or will you step forward in courage? The pages of history are filled with the names of those who dared to live boldly. The future will belong to those who do the same. Fear may whisper, but it does not have to lead. Boldness will always shape the world, and those who choose it will never be forgotten. Fear cannot survive in the presence of hope. Where fear cripples, hope strengthens. Where fear paralyzes, hope moves forward. Fear sees the darkness, but hope looks for the light. It is the force that keeps people pressing on when everything around them says, "Give up." It is the quiet voice that whispers, "Keep going," even when the road ahead seems uncertain. Hope is not just a wish, it is a deep assurance that no matter how difficult today may seem, tomorrow holds something better. It is the belief that struggles are temporary, that storms will pass, and that every challenge carries the potential for growth. A person who has hope will walk through the same difficulties as everyone else, but with a different spirit. They may face loss, hardship, and uncertainty, but they will not be consumed by them. Fear thrives on doubt. It tells people that failure is final, that hardship is unending, that there is no way forward. It magnifies problems and minimizes possibilities. But hope stands in defiance of that voice. Hope sees past the struggle and believes in something greater. It does not deny reality, but chooses to focus on the possibilities rather than the obstacles. Think of the people who have endured the hardest trials in life and still come out stronger. They were not without fear, but they held on to hope. They refused to believe that their circumstances had the final say. They knew that as long as there was breath in their lungs, there was a reason to keep going. Hope gave them strength when everything else tried to take it away. And here's the truth. The moment a person loses hope, they become trapped by fear. But as long as they hold on to hope, they are free. They can rise above fear, walk through storms, and face challenges with courage. Hope is not just a feeling. It is a weapon against fear. And those who choose to live with hope will always walk with strength. Fear and love cannot exist in the same heart. Where fear controls, love is absent. But where love is present, fear begins to fade. Love is the most powerful force in the world. It strengthens, it uplifts, it gives courage where fear would bring hesitation. Love empowers a person to step forward, to take risks, to sacrifice for something greater than themselves. Fear makes people focus inward on their own worries, their own insecurities, their own survival. But love shifts the focus outward. It makes people think beyond themselves. A person controlled by fear will hold back, afraid of failure, rejection, or loss. But a person filled with love will move forward, not because they are without fear, but because their love is greater than their fear. Think about the parents who run into danger to save their child. They don't stop to question their fear. Love compels them to act. Think about those who dedicate their lives to helping others, despite the risks and challenges they face. Fear tells them to stay safe, to avoid difficulty, to think only of themselves. But love drives them forward. It gives them the boldness to do what fear would never allow. Fear isolates, but love connects. Fear divides, but love unites. Fear makes people defensive, but love makes them open. When love fills the heart, there is no room for fear. Love says, I will not be afraid to speak the truth. Love says, I will not be afraid to stand for what is right. Love says, I will not let fear hold me back from giving, from caring. The world is filled with fear because it lacks love. People fear rejection, so they close themselves off. They fear failure, so they never try. They fear being hurt, so they refuse to trust. But the person who chooses love chooses freedom. They choose to live boldly, to give without hesitation, to believe that love is greater than any fear they may face. Love is not weakness. It is the greatest strength a person can have. And when love rules the heart, fear loses its power. Fear does not begin in the outside world. It begins in the mind. It starts as a thought, a whisper of doubt, a small worry that, if left unchecked, grows into a powerful force that controls decisions, actions, and even identity. The mind is a battlefield, and fear fights to take control. But here's the truth. Fear only wins when it is allowed to. Every great achievement, every bold step, every act of courage first begins in the mind. Likewise, every hesitation, every retreat, every missed opportunity also begins in the mind. If a person constantly feeds their thoughts with fear, worrying about failure, rejection, or disaster, fear will shape their reality. But if they challenge those thoughts, replacing fear with truth, with confidence, with faith, then fear begins to lose its grip. Fear thrives on imagination. It exaggerates problems, magnifies risks, and makes the future seem darker than it really is. How many people have spent sleepless nights worrying about things that never even happened? How many have held back from pursuing their dreams because fear convinced them they weren't good enough? How many relationships have suffered because fear whispered, you'll get hurt again? Fear is a master of deception, but the battle against it is won in the mind. The good news is that just as fear is created in the mind, it can also be defeated there. The moment a person chooses to confront their fears instead of surrendering to them, everything changes. When fear says you can't, they can respond, yes, I can. When fear says you will fail, they can declare, failure is just a step towards success. When fear says stay where it's safe, they can boldly say, I was made for more. The most powerful weapon against fear is the ability to control the mind. Thoughts must be guarded, challenged, and shaped with truth rather than lies. Fear is not an unstoppable force. It is a voice that can be silenced, a chain that can be broken, a shadow that disappears when the light of truth shines upon it. A mind that is trained to reject fear will always be a mind that walks in strength, boldness, and unwavering confidence. Life is too short to live in fear. Every day is a gift, an opportunity to grow, to experience, to love, and to make a difference. But fear is a thief. It steals time, drains joy, and keeps people from truly living. How many moments have been lost because fear held someone back? How many dreams have been buried because fear said it's too risky? How many relationships have suffered because fear whispered? Fear convinces people to play it safe, to stay in their comfort zones, to avoid challenges. But no one looks back at their life with joy and says, I'm so glad I let fear stop me. Instead, the greatest regrets come from the chances not taken, the words left unspoken, the dreams left unrealized. Fear leads to a life of what ifs. What if I had stepped out in faith? What if I had stepped out in faith? What if I had pursued my... But here's the truth. The time to live is now. Not tomorrow, not someday, but today. There will always be reasons to be afraid. There will always be uncertainty, challenges, and risks. But there will never be another today. Fear keeps people waiting, but life does not wait. Every moment spent in fear is a moment that could have been spent in courage, in love, in purpose. The greatest experiences in life come to those who refuse to be controlled by fear. The most meaningful relationships, the most fulfilling work, the most beautiful adventures, all of these require a willingness to step beyond fear's grip. Those who live without fear don't do so because they never feel afraid. They simply choose not to let fear dictate their lives. They embrace the unknown, take risks, love deeply, and pursue their dreams with passion. In the end, fear will either define a life or be defeated by it. The choice is simple. Let fear steal life's greatest moments or rise above it and truly live. Fear will always knock at the door, but it does not have to be welcomed in. A life lived fully, boldly, and without regret is a life that refuses to bow to fear. The time to live is now. Fear may be loud, but it does not have to be in control. It may whisper doubt, spread anxiety, and try to hold people back, but it only has power when it is given permission. Life was never meant to be lived in hesitation, in worry, in constant retreat. It was meant to be lived boldly with faith, with hope, with love. The world may offer 1,000 reasons to be afraid, but there is always one greater reason to stand strong. The choice is clear. A life ruled by fear or a life filled with courage. Fear limits, but faith expands. Fear weakens, but love strengthens. Fear takes, but boldness gives. And in the end, the people who truly live are not the ones who never felt fear, but the ones who chose to rise above it. Every day is another chance to walk forward, to embrace the unknown, to refuse to let fear write the story. And when fear is silenced, when boldness takes its place, that is when life truly begins.